Good evening, everyone. I'm Danya from the Office of Global Engagement at IITM, and I welcome you to the IITM Deakin Research Academy Ask Us Anything webinar session. I'm really happy to introduce our speakers for today. Joining us is Professor Satyanarayan Seshadri from the Department of Applied Mechanics, and he's also the advisor for global research activities at IITM. Professor Satya is a distinguished researcher leading the Energy Center of Excellence, where he focuses on enhancing energy efficiency through innovative technologies like heat pumps and thermal energy storage systems. With over 8 years of industry experience at companies like General Electric and Forbes Marshall, Professor Satya also serves as the national coordinator for the Industrial Energy Assessment Cell and actively fosters international collaborations, including the Australia India Center for Energy. Also with us is Professor K. Bhaskaran, a seasoned strategic leader serving as the Pro Vice Chancellor for International Research Partnerships at Deakin University. With a wealth of experience spanning over 3 decades, Professor Bhaskaran has played pivotal roles in developing and delivering international education and research partnerships. His leadership extends to overseeing Deakin's international research strategy and nurturing industry university collaborations, notably in India through initiatives like Ford University Alliance and the Australia India Water Center. Now over to Professor Satya to give us an overview of the program. Following that, we'll be taking questions from the Q&A box only. So please do drop in your questions in the Q&A box.
Thank you, Danya. I welcome you all for this session. I particularly thank all the organizing members here to pull this out. So I'll briefly talk about the IIT Madras Deakin Research Academy and how we have set this up. So the objective of this joint academy is to promote the joint PhD program in a quarterly model where it is co-supervised by leading experts from both these institutions across multiple key research areas, which is listed out here. The students are expected to apply against a couple of research areas here, which then would be taken up for further review and interviews. The features of the program is access to supervision, joint supervision from both these institutions, facilities and resources and funding opportunities, primarily to work on some of these leading edge and cutting cross-disciplinary research areas. For this particular cohort, we are looking at 30 scholarships, 10 for students at Deakin and 20 IITM. What this means is the Deakin students would be starting at Deakin and IITM students will be starting at IITM. The model as such, it requires that we enroll simultaneously at the institutions, but it's a separate enrollment. The panels are a joint research panel leading to a single thesis. The assessment process, like any PhD process, involves a viva voce examination, and the students will be receiving 2 separate parchments recognizing the courses that is taken up at both these institutions. So the typical pathway for a student entering this program, if IIT Madras is the home institution, which is Indian students and international students other than Australian citizenship, international students also have the opportunity to choose which institutions to enroll in. So typically, you would receive a scholarship at IIT Madras for the first year and third year and fourth year. The second year is likely to be spent at Deakin University, which is again fully supported by Deakin, and which includes a return round-trip travel between Melbourne and Chennai and travel insurance up to 12 months. While at IIT Madras, the students continue to pay a small tuition fee, which is applicable for all students at IIT Madras, including the scholarship students. And at Deakin, the fee is currently waived off, but the living expenses are to be taken care of by the students themselves. The Deakin home model, where Australian and international students other than Indian citizens are applying to this program, a typical annual stipend as per Deakin policy is provided, and a relocation grant of up to 5,000 Australian dollars for a round trip between Chennai and Mumbai for students who are traveling from IIT Madras to Deakin for their 1-year internship or 1-year study there. And then tuition again at Deakin is waived, and those who come to IIT Madras will still continue to be paying a scholarship discounted tuition fee at IIT Madras. So why this program as such? Why are we doing it as supervisors? It's primarily to look at bright young students to be part of these emerging areas of research and provide the opportunity to build the next class solutions and technologies for global challenges. Second and most important thing is also to expand the partnership that we have been having with Deakin. So this is one of the largest academic partnership in terms of joint doctoral students with IIT Madras and Deakin. The expand the network of contacts. So many of the projects that have been listed has significant industry contacts. So this program allows us to expand and leverage those contacts, and probably also look at startups and spin-offs. Why students are expected to benefit from this program? As you already saw, these faculty are highly reputed with good resources and good academic profile. Facilities as such, you would expect what to be there in world-class research centers across both the countries, and of course, leverage from the industry partnerships and the opportunities to go beyond your PhD. So in a nutshell, this program allows students to get started with their research and doctoral career right off the bat. So it provides the benefit of both the institutions, at the same time providing a clear path for what is in it for you after your PhD. The process itself is fairly straightforward. The students fill up the online application. The applications are live right now on our website. The deadline for submission is 5th of May. So we request you to fill up the application and select up to 2 projects in your expression of interest. For students who would like to start from Deakin, there is an additional Deakin form. It's a profile form, which is very straightforward. Once it is done, we look at eligibility of applications and then set up an interview panel. And interviews are likely to happen in the month of May. And an offer letter will be presented to you so that you can choose to act on the offer letter. And once the offer letter is done, then you can proceed to join at IIT Madras. And the courses start from end of July, early August at IIT Madras, and the Deakin as per their academic calendar. So the courses will be coterminous. It starts with the usual academic calendar in both the institutions. This is the first intake of the program. Please visit our website for further details on how these models will be working. And just pay attention that if you are an Indian citizen, you apply at IIT Madras, and if you are an Australian citizen, you will be applying at Deakin. And for international students, the choice is yours. You can apply at both places, and depending on the availability of visa and depending on the ability to secure a visa, you can continue at both institutions. Keep in mind that if for whatever reasons, once you start a particular university and not able to secure a visa to travel to the partner institution, your program will switch to a single mode degree where you will continue to work at your home institution and complete the requirements for the degree. Just to reiterate the timeline, you apply before 5th of May. Shortlisting and interviews are likely to happen in the month of May, and with the offers sent by June, and confirmation and start of your PhD by July. So this is the broad timeline that we are looking at, and I think we will stop there. And if you have any questions, we'll be free to take.
Just to add to clarification what Satya said, when the IIT home students come to Deakin for 1 year, they will be provided a scholarship to cover their living expenses. At the moment, it is 34,400 per year. So that is the same scholarship currently any PhD student get at Deakin University. So in addition to the travel grant and the insurance, for the time that IIT Madras home students at Deakin, they will be provide the same scholarship as any other students as well. So you don't have to worry about the living expenses in Australia.
Perfect. Okay, so we will look at the questions. Selection rounds, it is likely to be an interview held in the month of May. If you don't have a GATE score and if you're applying to IIT Madras, you already have a master's program, then GATE is not required. So you can directly apply to the program. Interviews will be online, and the program offers 2 degrees. Like I said, it's the quotidian model. So you will get 2 degrees, one from Deakin and one from IIT Madras. So those are the, okay. How many rounds of interviews? It will be 1 round of interview. And then who will provide the certificate? IIT Madras and Deakin will provide the certificate. So there is the usual eligibility criteria, it is listed in our website. So in this particular case, we will follow each and the respective institutions eligibility set criteria. So if it is a Deakin home admission, then it will be the criteria for Deakin. And if it's IIT Madras admission, it will be the criteria that is usually followed for IIT Madras. All right. English language requirements are required. Yes, it is required to be completed. I mean, as per the Deakin's requirement, IELTS of 6.5 and above is required. Second, there is a question from Abib, which is, I have applied to Deakin. If you have already applied to Deakin to have Deakin as home university, then you don't need to have a separate application to IITM. Tenja Singh, is it necessary to have IELTS? Yes, it is necessary to have IELTS. So, okay.
So just to add to the question, if one of the question was if Canada has already applied to Deakin,
Yes.
they would have gone through the selection process by now. And if you are not successful in that round, and if you are an Indian nationality, then you had to apply through IIT Madras process. If you are directly applied, if you got a scholarship already, then you continue to do PhD at Deakin University as well. So if you haven't heard anything back from Deakin University for a place, because there is a limited places, if you're an Indian nationality, then you have to apply through the IIT Madras pathway.
Excellent. So in terms of how much time you have to send the language certificate, if you have applied to Deakin directly, you will have to have included with the application letter itself. If it is through IIT Madras, I think the standard language requirements hold there. You probably should check our website for eligibility on languages.
Okay, it's 6.5 IELTS.
IELTS
Every band has to be above 6.
Yes. Passport is compulsory for Indian students. For this program, you will have to apply for a passport. If you don't have it right now, you can apply for the program, but you need to procure a passport before you can become eligible for travel. You can complete your application, but before you be called for an interview, you will need to submit your recommendations. The letters of recommendations has to be received before you will be called for an interview if you get shortlisted. So if we select one supervisor from Deakin, can we continue our studies under his or her supervision even in Madras? The way it is set up is you will have one supervisor from Deakin and one from IIT Madras. So you will be under the supervision of the same group of supervisors. So that's how it is set up. So you will continue. English language requirements for IIT Madras applicants is as per our international admissions. It's available on our website, and it could be you can mail us if you have any further doubts on what it really means. Again, a question on letter of recommendations. It is typical of any admissions recommendation letter. So you get it from some of your sources, faculty, or former employer, or somebody who can talk a little bit about your candidature and about your skills and abilities. So that's the recommendation letter that is typically required. So
in terms of
yeah,
okay,
sorry.
I was going to say, in terms of IELTS needed itself, it is part of the eligibility criteria. So securing IELTS score prior to application is important. And that's one of the selection criteria that will be judged based on your selection as well. Yeah, I'll continue to give you some break. In terms of the stipend at Deakin University, IIT Madras students, those who are starting at IIT Madras, when they come to Deakin University for a 12-month period, they will get the same scholarship. At the moment, it is 34,400 Australian dollars per year. By the time you come in your third year or a second year, it will be adjusted to almost to 35,000. So every year it slightly goes up, which is the same scholarship as any other PhD students at Deakin as well.
Okay, Professor Bas, you want to take this? Where
You're currently in Melbourne on a student visa, graduating November. I'm assuming you're doing a master's program. If I got the positive application out from issue, yes, you can, but you got to get a positive application from Deakin University, and then you convert your current student visa from a particular course what you're currently doing into a PhD program, and that can be done while you are in Australia as well. Yes, as an Indian student, you have to apply through IIT Madras site. If you have already applied through Deakin website, you would have heard back from us to apply through IIT Madras website. Because to be fair for all Indian students, they have to go through the IIT Madras selection process. If you don't have an IELTS, you're coming into a joint program, so you have to meet both requirements. So you cannot get an offer letter from Deakin University unless you meet the IELTS requirement. So that's part of the selection part of it, and you may do the coursework program, and then you have to clear the IELTS before you can enroll at Deakin University.
Yeah.
So some of the interview probably prefer to have that, but if you don't have it, that's fine. But we won't be able to issue the offer letter without the IELTS score. Sorry, Satya.
Yeah. So I just want to add here for students applying at IIT Madras, it's not specified in the website that IELTS is required at IIT Madras for admission, but to be eligible for this program, it is required before a Deakin appointment can be made. So if you happen to join here without the Deakin appointment, you will not be able to take up the joint appointment at Deakin. So even if it's IIT Madras is your home institution, you can still apply and still get shortlisted, but before the joint appointment can be made, IELTS become necessary. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to lead to an automatic disqualification, but it will be necessary before you can proceed.
Another question is, if you have done your schooling and college in English, you still require IELTS requirement. That is not only our course requirement, but also the visa requirement. So if you don't have an IELTS requirement, you won't be able to offer as well. Yeah, we have answered the question. The next one, whether you have to get an IELTS score. In order to get an offer letter from Deakin, you need to have an IELTS score. But you could start at IIT Madras and then get the IELTS score. If you don't meet the IELTS requirement, then you will be converted into a single degree.
Yeah. So there's a lot of questions here on IELTS score. I just want to inform, like Professor Bas said, you can start at IIT Madras if you get selected. But if you want to get into the joint program, that becomes necessary. So which you can probably get a month down the line or 2 months down the line. But within the first 6 months of joining at IIT Madras, you will be required to complete that, provided you get admitted to the joint program.
What is a voter Rahar card?
I'm not sure what that really means.
So if somebody, someday, if you can explain what is that voter Rahar card, we can answer that, because we don't know what it is. IELTS score is there.
So if I may take this question. So I think he's asking, what do I give as the expiry date for my Aadhaar card? So that doesn't have an expiry date. So please give in the last date that you can find in the application. That's okay. If you don't have your government mandated passport, you can submit your Aadhaar card as ID proof and given you can give the date of issue if you want. Thank you.
Okay.
So the other question is about if you have an IIT master's degree, you don't have an IELTS, you are eligible to apply for the program, but before you enroll at Deakin University in the joint program, you still have to meet the IELTS requirement.
So just to add here, the IELTS requirement are as per the visa requirements as well. So the countries of origin where you don't need IELTS are specified. Everybody else would need. Doesn't matter where the master's is done. So unless a master's is done in what is typically called as an English-speaking country, IELTS will become required. Okay.
Question about gate score.
If you are a BTech candidate from any of the centrally funded technical institutes or CFTI and your CGPA is above 8.0, you don't need a gate score. For all other candidates, gate score will be required if you only have a BTech. If you already have a master's, then gate may not be required.
Yep. Lots of question about IELTS.
All right.
If somebody has applied to Deakin, if you are an Indian nationality with an Indian passport holder, yes, you have to apply to IIT Madras. And you would have received some notification from us. Next about the GATE syllabus, Satya.
Okay, how do you prepare for the interview? Interview is based on the topic that you have applied and your eligibility. So what are the expected preparatory areas for the topic? So it is really dependent on the interview panel. It is not the GATE syllabus. It is rather related to the basic preparatory work that is required for the basis of the topic that you had applied. So it's only that.
The next question is the Deakin application. We haven't selected. We will select the candidates collectively between IIT Madras and Deakin because there's a possibility candidates from both sides applying for the same project. So the selection process will happen concurrently, but it will all happen after the 5th of May, the closing date. Satya, you want to share the fee structure for IIT Madras?
The fee structure is on the website itself, but it is our typical semester fee that is applicable for the in-home students. I think it's about 12,500 rupees per semester, and then the hostel and mess fees.
Yeah.
So which is typically what is charged for all the domestic students.
Then the question about intake from UEM Jaipur.
You should be eligible as long as you meet the other criteria, which is CGPA requirements. Masters will be considered as waiver for GATE.
Yep. Regardless of your masters and bachelors, I think we have answered the question about English language.
IELTS, I think we have generally answered, so we will move forward.
The next question is about 12 years of work experience. It's an interesting question. When we select candidates for PhD program, we will carefully look at what your work experience in the last 12 years, because you would have completed your master's program well ahead. If you have worked in a research environment, then it's possible. But if you have worked in a normal work environment, you may not be eligible to apply for PhD because you wouldn't have done any research related activity or projects in the last 7 years, 8 years. So it all depends on what your work experience are, and then what's your experience in carrying out independent research is an important criteria for us to look at it. Is that right, Satya?
Yeah, I agree with you. So Deakin student tuition fee for IITM for the 12-month, it will be paid as per the scholarship student policy at IITM. The minimum fee that is required has to be paid. It's, as I said, it's about 12,500 rupees per semester plus whatever hostel charges that will be required. Someone gets selected for PhD, travel allowance is available as per the policy. As I presented just a little while ago, travel allowance is allowed. The round trip fee from Chennai to Melbourne of 5,000 Australian dollars plus whatever is required for visas and other will be covered by that. Plus a 12-month insurance is covered under the Deakin student insurance policy.
Yeah, for all the students, Deakin scholar fees will be waived under the scholarship. So when whether the students start at IIT Madras or start at Deakin, you don't pay the tuition fee to Deakin University. That is also another scholarship we are providing in parallel. So there's no free education, but the costs will be covered by the university at Deakin.
Okay. The
We
question
answered
is
that.
already answered. Yes, you can request the recommendation to be sent to the email listed on the website with reference to your application number so that our office can properly match it if you have not applied in the application itself. This is a question regarding recommendation sent directly by reference. It can be sent to the email listed on the website. Make sure you put in your name and application reference number.
We answered the travel question.
And then the question on expression of interest, Professor Baz, you want to take it? If they have already submitted EOI on the Deakin home application, I think what's the follow-on step?
Yeah, I think if you have submitted the EOI at the Deakin website, and then you have selected or identified 2 projects, then it's covered as well. But just to double check it, if you can send an email to the email address provided, that would be great at the presentation, because we can make sure we are talking to the same person here. Yep, if you are an IELTS band at 5.5, that indicates, even though regardless of whether your previous degree in English, if the IELTS band is 5.5, you don't meet the eligibility criteria. So my suggestion is to, rather than just go and do an IELTS test, prepare it for about 3 months or 6 months, and then you go about doing it. Because a lot of people think that you have done a master's in English and bachelor's in English, I can just walk in and do the IELTS exam and get a high score. Very often, the students who have been studied in English, but they struggle to get a relevant score in listening and comprehension. So it's important to prepare for the IELTS test and then go and do it. You'll definitely get a very high score. But if you don't prepare and then walk in and try to do the exam, it'll be challenging as well. What is a LOR, letter of
Reference, recommendation.
Okay. It can be a general one, as far as they can demonstrate your ability to carry out independent research would be good. Here we answered the IELTS requirement. When is the deadline? 5th of May. Application. I think Satya answered. GATE is not mandatory if you already got a master's degree, but if you have a bachelor's degree, you need to have a GATE.
Okay.
Yeah, the transcript is fine for us to evaluate whether you call for an interview. But before you enroll at the institution, you have to provide the proper certificate.
Yes.
From your home institution. Yeah, we answered the GATE score. What's the question about English? Yeah, in terms of PhD, we don't go with the medium of instruction certificate because it significantly vary. I just want to point it out, the level of English language, what we are looking at it's not to tell whether you can work in English. That's not a question, and particularly students from India, you would have done both undergraduate and postgraduate in English. Here is where you can actively participate in a larger research team with multinational teams. So having that level of English language, your listening ability, your comprehensive ability, IELTS is probably one of the best test tells us an indication of that ability for you to actively participate in research discussion and research communication. So that's the reason we look at the IELTS score as an indicative measure for your English language.
Okay.
If you got an IELTS score of 7, that's good enough because you're applying in 24, not in 25. When at the time of application and your enrollment, your IELTS score is active, valid, then it is fine. You don't have to reappear. for this year entry. If you're going for the next year entry, then you may have to, but this year entry, you don't have to.
I think IELTS has been answered quite comprehensively, so probably you just take it.
Here's the question is that your listening band is 5.5. You haven't met the entry requirement. It has to be at least 6. So as I told you earlier, the listening and the comprehensive are the two bands are challenging, even though you have studied undergraduate and postgraduate in English. I worked in concrete. Is it suitable? The question is, what level of research activity you have carried out during your work career in the concrete related area? So that's what you're looking at, rather than if you worked as an engineer in the construction industry or using concrete technology, that doesn't fit the research career. So you need to provide, if you have done a research sort of it, that's a reason why you're looking at a master's or a bachelor degree where you have done a research project. Satya, you see JRF qualified candidates, what is that?
I think so. You can apply as per our requirements. Coursework at IITM Deakin, this is really dependent on the doctoral committee. So once if you get admitted and the doctoral committee is formed, it's dependent on the doctoral committee. So it's very flexible. Deadline, we will fix it. The deadline is 5th of May, as shown in the presentation. 2nd of May was the original deadline. Now it's moved to 5th of May. So we will change that. About dependent, yes.
I'll answer that. If you are starting at Deakin as a Deakin student, if you get a Deakin admission and Deakin full scholarship, under the visa student policy, yes, the dependent can travel with the candidate, but then the 1 year you spend at IIT Madras, again the challenge of dependent traveling, and we will not cover the cost for the dependent to travel. Similarly, when a candidate who started IIT Madras and come over to Australia, dependent travel cost will not be covered by the university. The university will cover only the candidate's cost and the insurance as well. But you can bring the dependent as well as you can cover the cost. What is non-CFTI?
Centrally funded technical institution, 2 years of work experience, publication. Yes, as per our eligibility requirement, you still need a GATE score.
Yeah.
Professional experience and a career gap is not a problem as long as you are able to meet the eligibility of academic admissions. How much time one may have for securing after. So as we said before, IELTS is required for admission to Deakin. So probably a few months before you can process that.
Yeah, just to go back to the question there about 5 years experience. As I told earlier, it's the type of experience you had is important. And we got to, if your postgrad is done 5 years ago, and then there is, in that 5-year period, you haven't had exposure to the research activity, then we need to look at much more in detail. Date of interview.
So probably somewhere in the middle of May. We haven't finalized the dates yet, depending on the availability of supervisors and time. So somewhere in the mid to 3rd week of May.
Next one about the project on the same domain, you can.
Yeah.
Select 2 projects from the same domain based on your interest. That's what normal PhD students do. You don't go and do completely a different domain if it's not, it's part of your interest. Can application be modified after they been submitted? I don't know. Is it can they edit the application if they are submitted already? Probably not.
Danya, do you think can they edit? I don't think they can edit the application,
Yeah.
right?
So you can't edit the application after submitting, but you can write to us in case you haven't submitted, if you missed out on uploading your documents.
Okay.
And we will be opening up your specific application for the specific section after the 5th of May. So you'll have a window of 24 to 48 hours where you can upload the missed documents. So please write to the email ID that was given in the chat box.
Okay. So for all of you, if you have any specific questions, anything that you want to edit or correct, please write to that email address. So we will take care of it at the back end.
Satya, next question about satellite integration.
This is a specific topic. I think if you are really looking, you can write to those instructors. So the supervisors that are listed on the website who has posted these projects. So if you want to ask anything about the topic, you can write to them.
Yeah, next question. You already have a research experience. Yes, you are eligible to apply.
Yes.
And when you apply, give us detail of your research experience and any publication you have done in that part of it. That'll be good.
Okay, so again, English language, we have already mentioned that. We'll go to the next one. Interview based on project selection to assess it will be based on the project that you have picked up, which will also assess your fundamental ability to do research in the topic. So not necessarily based on your previous experience, but it's more related to how you could perform in the particular project that you have selected.
You applied on Deakin website as an international student. There are any process to take before? I think if you you got to fill up that form and put the information, including the English language, and then you can upload all the information. So there's no additional process you have to take at this stage. And we go through the screening and the interview process, and then we will come back. If you are selected as one of those 10, then we will come and ask for further information and then certification and all of that.
Okay. So as an international student who did masters from IIT Madras,
Yes,
it's based on your passport, so you can apply.
Yeah, you can make the Deakin or IIT Madras as your home institution because you are an international student.
Okay. Based in Australia, this is something Professor Bas you can answer, which is using.
Tracy, I'm going to refer back to you. Can I use Pearson English? I thought we can.
Yes, Pearson is the PTE test is an option.
Okay.
So the test score for Deakin is an overall score of 60 with no score less than 50 in any skill.
Good. Thank you. From the subject, including maths.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think that's something that's expected of any PhD interviews. We have attended any PhD interviews at IITs, these are expected. For the Deakin student, is it possible to extend visa in Australia? Yeah.
So for the Deakin student, if you're an international student, you are joined at Deakin and you spend 12 months at IIT Madras. That is all part of your visa requirement and the post requirement. So you are eligible for a PhD candidates, you are eligible for 4 years of post-study visa after that as well. So yes, you can.
Okay, what if 4 years is not enough? Can the student make extension?
I'm sure we will select the candidate who is good enough to do the PhD in 4 years. So there is no reason why a PhD has to take more than 4 years. And that's a limit. And yes, there is possibility of extension, but you don't get scholarship funded beyond 3.5 years. So typically the scholarship is given for 3 years. You get an extension of a year, and we hope the candidates to finish PhD in that period of time. You can go up to 4, but anything beyond that, you have to cover the cost, and you have to pay the fees as well. You don't get a fee exemption scholarship either. So every reason for you to finish within 4 years.
Yeah. Same question, masters in civil with technical office and concrete research. I think it is based on the program that you apply to. So the projects, if your experience is suitable, probably you will be called for the
Yeah.
interview.
With the application, please share the research you have done in concrete and the outcome of the research, what you have done. That has to be documented and evidenced as well. Then we can look into it. And I think, Dania, if you can share the email ID on the chat, that will be good.
Okay, that we will do.
Yeah, I've sent
Recording.
the email. Yes.
Go ahead, Dania.
So can we share the recording of this session that Danya can answer?
So we'll upload this on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
You can check out the Office of Global Engagement IITM's social media, and you can find the links over there.
In terms of the maternity leave policy, each university has its own policy. Yes, it is covered part of that policy as well. And typically, at Deakin University, we provide time release for the candidates. So what happens is candidates go on a maternity leave, and during the period, then the candidate's time is adjusted accordingly as well. So Satya in IIT.
Same thing. I think we have a maternity leave policy, similar leave of absence that the students can assess up to, I think, 6 months.
Yeah.
So,
And the other question is about, can we study for master's degree? Yes, you can, but you pay for it. That this is not part of this joint program. What we are offering, you can do a master's at IIT Madras, or you can do a master's in Deakin as well.
so is there a number of limit on seats for each project? Each project will have only one student that we take on board.
Yeah, Gayatri, you want to answer the query about the Deakin email? You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm just sending the email to that person, and Danya can post it in the broader. I'm not too sure how to post it. I'll send it across now.
If you share it on the chat, people can
Yeah.
get the email. It's already there. IIT email address and the Deakin email address.
All right. I think we more or less run to the end of this chat or the Q&A. So I think that's, if I were to categorize most of it, were related to the English language requirements, which is required for you to be part of this exam. So do plan to do your IELTS exam and make sure that you have 6.5 or at least 6 in all of that, and there is a 6.5 requirement for certain sections. Any questions, please post to our the emails listed in the chat window. Just to reiterate, the deadline for application is the 5th of next month, May, and there is no possibility of extending the deadline, and we will be shortlisting and calling for interviews very quickly thereafter. So if you are interested and intending to apply, please do it as soon as possible and don't really wait for the last day.
Yeah, there are 2 more questions in there. While you're studying at PhD at Deakin, you can do part-time jobs mainly in the academic nature in the university. Say, for example, want to be a tutor or a teaching assistant or something. But we don't encourage you to go and do part-time job outside. That's the reason you have been given a full scholarship to study at Deakin University. The reason we allow the candidates to do part-time work within the university, because they gain experience to be an academic staff or a teaching or research experience. That is allowed, but for outside, we discourage them to go and do a part-time job outside the university environment, because you got a full scholarship. It's more than good enough to cover all your living expense as well. Your PhD graduation requirement, it goes through an internal and external assessment, and also the oral presentation. Typically, your thesis is evaluated by 2 external examiners and also the internal as well. So you have to meet the graduation assessment requirement both of IIT as well as in Deakin University. It'll be done jointly as well. Still apply. Yes, you can apply mechanical engineering, but depending on what type of project and how, and we go through an interview process to select the candidate. If you are an Indian student pursuing masters, if you still hold an Indian passport, you are still classified as an Indian student. You have to apply through the Indian IIT Madras pathway. If you are
Yeah.
you are a non-resident Indian, then something we need to look at. But I think what you have described here, you are still classified as an Indian nationality. Publication requirement, there is no hard rule on publication, but we expect the candidates to have at least 2 good quality publications accepted for publication by the top tier journals before you submit. That's a norm expectation. It is not a compulsory requirement, but most of the PhD candidates has achieved that. Placement after completion of the program is, again, you are doing a PhD program, you are not doing a BTech or MTech. So it's all your career pathway. There are a lot of support provided. But in Australia, you seek your own employment opportunity, and then we help you rather than go through the industry placement. I think we answered the question about the IELTS certificate. This is for postdoc. If you have finished a PhD, yes, you can more than have welcome to apply for postdoc position. There are several postdoc positions, not only in Deakin, but also in other institutions as well. So that's pretty much, we have almost 100 questions. That's great. And thank you for everyone who actively participate and asking those 100 questions, because you may have a question, but there are a lot of people who are listening had the same question but didn't ask, and they all benefited out of you asking that question as well. So thank you for participating. And then, as Satya mentioned, that if you have any further question, drop us an email to either of the email, and then we will take it from there. And thank you for everyone, Tanya and the colleagues organizing
Thank
this.
you. Thank you.
It's a wonderful opportunity to share and answer some of the queries as well.
Okay, Danya, can you move us back to the